If you and your partner both work full-time and still feel like you're barely keeping up, a Harvard bankruptcy researcher named Elizabeth Warren figured out why in 2003. She studied over 2,000 families and found something nobody expected. Two incomes don't make a household more secure. They make it more fragile. Today we go through her research, the math behind it, and exactly what to do about it. I'm Mr. Blobski. My tie has been the same income level for 15 years, and somehow I sleep fine. Let's get into it. Let me describe a household to you. She works in healthcare administration, $64,000 a year. He is in project management, $71,000. Combined income, $135,000. That puts them in the top 20% of American households by income. They have two kids. They own a home in a decent school district. They have two cars because two people commuting to two jobs need two cars. They have childcare for the younger one. They eat out maybe twice a week because after 10-hour days, including commute, nobody has the energy to cook. They should be thriving. They should be building wealth. They should feel financially secure. Instead, they have about 6 weeks of expenses in savings. They put a $1,400 car repair on a credit card last month. They have not had a real conversation about retirement in 2 years because the conversation makes both of them anxious. And at least once a month, one of them lies awake doing math in their head and does not like where the numbers go. They did everything right. They got the degrees. They got the careers. They combined finances. They bought the house. They are not spending recklessly. They are not irresponsible people. So why does it feel like they are running in place? Elizabeth Warren spent years trying to answer that exact question. And what she found changed how serious researchers think about middle-class financial fragility. In 2003, Elizabeth Warren, then a Harvard law professor specializing in bankruptcy, not yet a senator, published a book called The Two-Income Trap, co-written with her daughter, Amelia Warren Tyagi. The research behind it came from analyzing over 2,000 families who had filed for bankruptcy. Not poor families, middle-class families. Families with jobs and mortgages and college plans. The central finding was this: families with two working parents were filing for bankruptcy at higher rates than single-income families. Not lower, higher. This was not what anyone expected. The assumption most people still carry, is that two incomes equal more safety, more cushion, more margin for error. If one person loses their job, the other is still earning. What could be more stable than that? Warren's answer was this: it depends entirely on how you built your life around those two incomes. What she found was that two-income families were not saving the second paycheck. They were spending it, but not on luxuries, not on vacations and boats and frivolous things. They were spending it on the fixed costs of middle-class life: housing in good school districts, childcare, a second car, healthcare, all the things that let both people work in the first place. And once those fixed costs were locked in, the household had no margin left. Both incomes were fully committed to the monthly expenses. There was no reserve. There was no backup. The family was operating at 100% capacity with zero tolerance for disruption. Warren called this the two-income trap. You need both incomes to maintain the life you built around both incomes. And the moment either income disappears, a layoff, an illness, a family emergency, the entire structure collapses. The single-income family from 1970 had something the modern two-income family has lost: a backup plan. If the breadwinner lost their job, the stay-at-home parent could enter the workforce. That potential second income was an emergency reserve. The two-income family has already activated that reserve as the default operating mode. There is nothing left to activate. To understand how deep this runs, you have to look at what a single income could actually buy in 1970. The median family income in 1970, adjusted for inflation to today's dollars, was approximately $54,000. That was almost entirely one person's salary. And here is what that one salary bought. A median-priced home cost roughly $200,000 in today's money. The family spent about 25% of gross income on housing. Today, median home prices are above $400,000. The same family today spends over 34% of income on housing, and that is the national median. In any major metro, it is 40% or higher. Healthcare per household has increased by over 500% since 1970 in inflation-adjusted terms. And then there is the expense that barely existed in 1970, childcare. When one parent was home, there was no childcare bill. Today, the average cost of center-based childcare in America is $11,000 per year per child. In high-cost cities, New York, San Francisco, Boston, Washington, D.C., it is $20,000 to $30,000 per child annually. For a family with 2 children in childcare, that is a second mortgage payment every month, just to allow both parents to go to work. Warren's point was mathematical. The second income entered the economy, and the economy repriced everything around it. Housing got bid up to what 2 incomes could afford. School districts got priced into what 2 incomes could pay. The entire cost structure of middle-class life inflated to consume both paychecks. The second income did not add margin. It became the baseline requirement. Here is the calculation most 2-income households have never actually run. Warren laid this out in her book, and the numbers are still accurate today. In some cases, they are worse. Let us say one partner earns $70,000 and the other earns $50,000. Combined, $120,000. Sounds like a strong household. Now let us look at what that $50,000 income actually nets. Federal and state taxes on the second income. Because of how progressive tax brackets work, the second income gets added on top of the first. The first $70,000 fills the lower brackets. The additional $50,000 lands at the higher marginal rates. Effective tax rate on the second income, depending on state, 30 to 35%. After taxes, $32,000 to $35,000. Child care for one child, $11,000 per year at the national average. 2 children, $22,000. Let us use one child. You are now at $21,000 to $24,000. The second commute. 2 jobs means 2 commutes. The second person's transportation, gas, vehicle depreciation, maintenance, parking, adds approximately $5,000 to $8,000 per year. In many cases, the second job requires a second car that the household would not otherwise need. Add the car payment, insurance, and registration. Call it $10,000 total. You are now at $11,000 to $14,000. Exhaustion spending. Warren documented this specifically. 2 working parents means less time for cooking, home maintenance, errands. Studies consistently show dual-income families spend significantly more on convenience, takeout, cleaning services, pre-made meals, lawn care. These are not luxuries. They are the purchases that allow 2 exhausted people to function. Add $5,000 to $8,000 per year, you are now at $3,000 to $9,000. That is the net contribution of a $50,000 income to the household, $3,000 to $9,000 per year, on a good year. With one child, in a lower-cost city, someone is working 40 or more hours per week, commuting, being away from their kids, missing dinners and school events and weekday mornings, and the household is netting somewhere between $8 and $25 per workday from it. Warren was not saying this means both parents should not work. She was saying, if you do not run this math, you will build a life that requires both incomes and produces almost none of the financial security that 2 incomes are supposed to generate. Here is the mechanism Warren identified that makes this a trap specifically, not just a bad deal. When 2-income families size their life, they size it against their combined gross income. The bank looks at $120,000 and approves a mortgage accordingly. The couple looks at 120,000 and chooses a neighborhood accordingly. They make fixed commitments, mortgage, car payments, childcare contracts, based on the assumption that both incomes will continue indefinitely. And then life happens. One partner loses their job. A child develops special needs that require a parent to reduce hours. An aging parent needs care. Someone gets a serious diagnosis. Someone burns out badly enough that they cannot continue at the current pace. In 1970, that disruption would hurt but not destroy a single-income household. In the modern two-income household, it can be catastrophic. The fixed costs do not flex. The mortgage does not pause. The car payment does not pause. But the income just dropped by 40% overnight. This is exactly what Warren found in the bankruptcy filings. The families going bankrupt were not reckless people. They were people who had built reasonable lives on the assumption that both incomes would remain stable and encountered the completely ordinary disruptions that human life produces. They had traded their backup plan for a bigger house. And when the emergency arrived, there was nothing left to activate. Warren's research ends with the diagnosis. Let's talk about the prescription, the strategy that actually works. The one that makes Warren's research actionable is what I call the one-income foundation. The concept is simple, even if the execution requires discipline. Structure your fixed monthly expenses so they can be covered by one income alone. The second income becomes entirely discretionary. Let's make this concrete. Say your household earns $130,000 combined, $80,000 and $50,000. Step 1. Build your fixed cost floor around the $80,000 income only. Housing, car, insurance, utilities, groceries, everything non-negotiable should not exceed 55% of the primary income's take-home. On $80,000 gross, take-home is roughly $58,000. That gives you a ceiling of about $2,600 per month for all fixed costs. The house you buy needs to reflect that number, not your combined income. Step 2. The second income goes to one place before it goes anywhere else, building the buffer. Warren's research was clear that the two-income household's vulnerability is not income. It is the absence of margin. 3 to 6 months of full household expenses in liquid savings eliminates most of the catastrophic risk she documented. Step 3. After the buffer, the second income builds wealth. Max both 401ks to capture any employer match first. That is an immediate 100% return on that portion. Then a fully funded Roth IRA for each partner. Then taxable investment account. This is where the second income actually becomes the multiplier it was supposed to be. Step 4. Treat the second income as optional in every major decision. When choosing a house, ask one question. Could we survive this mortgage on one income if we had to? Not comfortably, survivably. If the answer is no, the house is too expensive. Regardless of what the bank approved, let us run the numbers on what this actually produces over time. Same couple, $130,000 combined. They follow the one-income foundation. Fixed costs stay under $2,600 per month. The second income net, after taxes and childcare and commute, is roughly $22,000 to $28,000 per year. Call it $25,000. They put the first $12,000 into retirement accounts across both 401ks to capture employer matches. That likely generates $3,000 to $5,000 in immediate employer match contributions. They put the next $6,000 into Roth IRAs. The remaining $7,000 goes into an index fund. After 5 years, they have built a buffer of $30,000, contributed roughly $60,000 to retirement accounts with compounding, and added $35,000 to a taxable investment account. Total accumulated across all accounts, approximately $140,000 over 5 years of disciplined deployment of the second income. Compare that to the default path. The second income absorbed into a larger mortgage, a second car payment, and lifestyle inflation. After 5 years, a house worth slightly more than they paid for it, and the same 6-week emergency fund they started with. Same income, radically different outcome. The alternative is not complicated. It just requires running the math before signing the mortgage, not after. Here is the honest part of this conversation. Because the strategy is simple, but the execution is genuinely hard. Choosing a house based on one income when your bank approves you for a house based on two incomes requires saying no to something you can technically afford. Every social signal around you will push the other direction. Your friends will be buying the bigger house. The neighborhood with the better schools costs more. The realtor will remind you of what you qualify for. The comparison is constant. Warren called this the bidding war for good schools. When every family has two incomes, prices get bid to what two incomes can pay. Choosing one income levels means choosing a slightly less prestigious neighborhood. It means a long-term financial bet instead of a short-term social one. 5 to 10 years in, that bet pays off. The family that kept fixed costs at one income levels has investment accounts, a real emergency fund, and options. The ability to say no to a bad job. The ability for one partner to step back if needed. The ability to take a career risk without the whole structure collapsing. The second family has a nicer house and a more impressive-looking life from the outside. And they are still one job loss away from the scenario Warren documented in her bankruptcy research. You do not have to live like you are poor to avoid the trap. You have to live like you are one income. Which, if you run the real math on what the second income nets after taxes and childcare and commute, is approximately what you are anyway. The goal is not to give up the second income. The goal is to make it actually work for you, building something real, instead of disappearing into the fixed costs of a life that was sized for a number that was never really yours to spend. Elizabeth Warren published her research in 2003. The numbers have changed. The trap has gotten tighter. The fundamental finding is unchanged. The two-income household that does not run this math will almost certainly end up earning more than their parents, feeling more stressed than their parents, and not understanding why. It is not that two incomes are bad. It is that two incomes committed entirely to fixed costs leave no margin for ordinary life disruptions. A household with no margin is one bad month away from a crisis that planning could have prevented. You and your partner both work hard. That second income deserves to actually build something. Run the real math on what it nets. Structure fixed costs around one income. Direct the rest deliberately. Watch what your financial position looks like in 5 years. The trap is real. The exit is real too. Warren found the trap. You now have the math to find the exit. I'm Mr. Blobski. My fixed costs are covered by one income. The second income is building something. My tie is not impressed by any of this, but my net worth is. Subscribe if you want to keep doing math that actually matters. Class dismissed.